9 Class is a 12k MMR rank 6 support player who is currently playing for Tundra along with Topson. I have been watching his games and I found out how he's playing the lane around the neutral camps differently in every matchup and decided to share the things he's doing consistently in his games with you guys. These concepts will help you improve your gameplay as a support and gain MMR. Starting with the laning stage, in the laning stage he has different ways to play out the lane depending upon the kind of matchup he's playing. When he's playing melee versus range support matchup, he doesn't block the small camp with sentry and he lets the enemy support single pull the small camp. Why is that? Because in a melee versus range support matchup, you cannot really trade attacks with the enemy support that easily. So he lets them pull the small camp and then he goes there to farm it himself as soon as possible, which not only helps him get the experience and some gold from the creep camp, but also denies the purpose of the pull. Because if you kill the creep camp quickly and the creep wave isn't denied, eventually, they will join the next wave and the enemy will have more creeps in the next wave, which will push the lane towards your side. For melee supports that usually don't know what to do in lane, it is a great move that you can apply in your games as well, but make sure you don't let the enemy stack the neutral camp. Because if they stack pulled, then you will be forced to play the lane close to enemy's tower, and you don't want that. In melee versus melee matchup, he blocks the small camp. Now there are two scenarios to this. If your melee support is stronger than the enemy's melee support, then you can always block the small camp and fight the enemy support in lane. But if your melee support is weaker than the enemy's melee support, for example, you are a Nyx or an Earthshaker against a Treant Protector, in that case, rather than blocking the small camp, you can play around your big camp and try to keep it unblocked. So every time enemy is pulling small camp, you can just pull big camp and you will have more value out of it. But make sure you don't let them stack and pull. When he is playing ranged hero, he blocks the small camp and tries to keep the big camp unblocked. The reason is when you're playing melee support, it is really hard for you to trade attacks with enemy heroes in lane because you will always take creep aggro and a lot of damage in return. But when you're playing ranged hero, your primary goal in the lane is to harass the enemy heroes. That's why it is preferred to block the neutral camp so you don't have to worry about the lane being pulled, and you can zone out the enemy heroes with your spells and attacks. 5 minutes onwards, he looks to play for the power rune every game. If he is in base, he teleports to mid and refills the bottom and plays around the mid until the 6-minute power rune. If he is in his lane, he leaves the lane, stacks the neutral camps, and then goes for power rune. After securing the power rune on minute 6, he goes back to the lane and plays for wisdom rune. If he is playing a range support, he will keep stacking the neutrals and play around power rune. But if he is playing a melee support and has a strong lane, in that case, after securing the power rune and a wisdom rune, he sticks in the lane to take the enemy's tower. Once you have taken a lane's tower, either you can keep farming the jungle around it or you can move to middle lane and with your offlaner take the mid tower next. After the laning stage, he plays around his strongest core and tries to make moves on map. But if for some reason there isn't anything happening on the map or his team is not willing to play aggressive, he starts farming for his next impactful item, which allows him to play the map more aggressively. For a hero like Tiny or Tusk, this item could be a Blink Dagger, or a hero that lacks catch, this item could be Rod of Fetos. If he's playing a melee support, he farms in an abandoned lane where his teammates are not farming, and in case there is a fight, he teleports to another lane to join the fight. But if he's playing a range support, he prefers stacking the camps either for himself or his team. Between 10 to 20 minutes, you also want to get your one item as a support, at least to be able to have impact in the game. Mostly support players don't use this window and they keep running around their course trying to do something on map, not realizing how much having this one item can change the outcome of the game. For example, in this case, Centaur without Blink isn't really a threat to Radiant at all, but the same Centaur with Blink Dagger can set up kills on map, set up plays in team fight, and can be a real threat. Since the map is too big, there is always going to be an area for you to farm as a support. Before farming, there are two things you need to take care of. One, I am not stealing my core's farm, and the second, I am not farming during my core's power spike. That power spike could be an item or an ability around which your core is really strong, and it's really hard for enemy to stop him. When your core is strong enough to fight and pressure enemy on map, you don't want to leave him alone to farm your item, otherwise that core will miss his timings to play on map, and then it will be really hard for him and your team to recover. Examples of such power spikes are Death Prophet with her ultimate is really strong and wants to take towers and run down the enemy hero on map, or Zeus with an early Arcane rune wants to fight. After getting that item, he sticks around his team and starts playing the map again to create pressure, and he does the same thing in every game. As a support, how you see the team fights matters a lot. Generally, support players are the first targets in a fight, so if you can understand your role in a team fight, you can have more impact and have the potential to win team fights for your team. When 9 class is playing range support, he is always positioned behind his cores and uses his spells to give impact. Many support players mistakenly reveal their position by walking in middle of the fight, either to use your spells or when their spells are on cooldown. As a support, not revealing your position is very crucial. Notice how he maintains his position in teamfight, heals Wind Ranger when needed, and doesn't waste time auto-attacking Night Stalker, but rather changes his position and waits for the spells to be up and perfectly sets up the fight for his team. As a support, you just need to have patience in teamfight and try not to die first. When you actively think about ways your hero can die in a team fight, it gets easier to avoid that situation. When he is playing melee heroes that are generally known to start the fight, he goes in, uses his spells, and tries to get out alive, just so he can keep giving his impact in the fight by constantly going in and out of the fight. I hope this was helpful and you learned something new. Do let me know if you have any feedback, otherwise, have a nice day and good luck with your games.